big divide in our society, which is secularism, that defines scripture versus science. They have not been compatible. And if you want to see them come together, there must be a really good reason, if not divinity. There is immense health benefits to being religious. I was like, so welcome to the first episode of my biblical series. I would highly recommend you to watch the premise video first, because I share some details there why we're going to read it this way. Because this is not going to be a normal biblical reading, it's more in line with systematic dynamics reading. And so, yeah, let's get right into it. So, reading through the first chapter of Genesis text, we see basically the Sabbath, right? God is creating throughout the 7 days. For example, the first chapter states the following. I mean, the famous one, right? Let there be light. And so you can see here, I have my pen ready. And God divided the light from the darkness. So this is an act of separation, right? A division. So you can see later on that there's more acts of division. Moreover, let the water under the heavens be gathered together into one place, and let the dry land appear. So this is an act of separation, but with sort of a twist, right? Because you create. You accumulate all the water on one side, let the other thing appear. And generally, an act of creation is division, right? So, yes, you can see that there are other ones as well. Divide the light from darkness, and God saw that it was good. So the whole theme of the Sabbath seems to follow the arc of division. So what seems to be established here in the first chapter is that you have an actor, right, God, that seems to be doing division in creating things. After the phase of division, God created man, right? He says right here, let us make man in our image, according to our likeness. So, what have we established that God is doing, right? He is dividing. That is the act of creation. He creates Adam and Eve, and they reside within this perfect garden. And the symbol of the garden could be interpreted something like a complete structure, right? After the seventh day, which is a symbol of completion, Adam and Eve lived in the garden without any issues. And they ate from tree of life, but God told them not to eat from the tree of knowledge. And then you get into the serpent. When the serpent said to the woman, you will not surely die, for God knows that in the day you eat from it, your eyes will be open, and you will be like God, knowing good and evil. And so this hinges on what God stated to Adam and Eve earlier, which is that you will surely die, right? And so the serpent is doing a division, because you can imagine that a cunning person is someone that comes up with an alternative. And so you can see that the serpent is giving Eve a alternative to what God said. And so Eve got fooled by this little snake. Basically, the serpent is dividing, right, without God's permission. And so eating from the tree of knowledge seems to have given Adam and Eve the ability to divide themselves. They become naked, right? And what does it mean to become naked? Well, it means something like being exposed. Before you got exposed, everything was dandy, right? Everything was going in accordance to plan. But then something happened that changes that direction, right? A split, a division yet again. You can think of like the self being partitioned, and in so doing become naked. Because now you can tell the difference between your conscious construct, let's say, and the body. I mean, we have a natural division inside of us. We have the conscious construct that might be wanting something, but then you have bodily limitations, let's say. You know that the body is part of you, but that is not the same as your conscious construct. So there's an internal division, right? Going against his commands, which was to not eat from the tree of knowledge. But in so doing, you divide yourself with God. And when you divide yourself with God, you can no longer remain in perfect symmetry, which is the garden. And so Adam and Eve gets expulsed out. I mean, if you read this from a systemic lens, this would be something more like, not sin or punishment, but a being that has separated from the perfect order can no longer be permitted to stay in the garden, which is a complete structure. And so they are cast out because, how can you say it? They are no longer they are compromising the equilibrium, let's say. I mean, this symbol makes sense. Read from a systemic lens, it's more so that a perfect symmetric state can no longer be maintained. It's interesting because when you look at the act of division, right, you contrast one thing over another. If you look, for example, in the cosmic microwave background, you can see that there is basically fluctuations of photons. That is what the CMB is. When we look out on the CMB and utilize our mathematical frameworks, we can infer that there was a time and space when there was no distinctions, or there was undifferentiated plasma. And so there's no distinctions to be made. There's basically everything was just one. And then a separation in state space. And so you can see how the Big Bang is very similar in spirit, in the sense that we are dividing. Yes, that's interesting. Of course, please, I encourage you guys to do comment section and give me pointers, and also maybe want to correct something, to expand, yeah, like anything. Just to quickly summarize, the first part of the chapter introduces an agent, God, that does division to create, right? It divides light from dark. And then you have the serpent, which introduces division beyond God, which leads humans to do that as well. And so they can no longer stay in perfect symmetry, and so they are expelled out because they are no longer part of that equilibrium. There's a symmetry break. And this again is very analogous to a separation in state space. We can see that there's a time and space when there is just undifferentiated plasma. And then, at a certain point, photons were able to transmit the differences, right? A separation in state space. Once you have divided something once, then you can divide those things more and more. It seems to align quite well with scripture, me reading it as someone that think falsification and scripture could come together and be compatible, at least in some sense. And so yeah, I hope you have enjoyed this, and please comment in the description if you want to correct something, if you want to add insight or whatever. And please subscribe, and I guess I'll see you next Sunday. Thanks for watching.